Okay, great. So Daniel chapter 5 is, the writing on the wall chapter, right? So this takes place during Belshazzar's reign. Now Belshazzar is like the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. So at this point in Daniel's life, he this is somewhere around 539 BC. So, and then when he went into exile, he was just a teenager around 586. So he's like 50 years now since being removed from Judea. So now, right, we got a different king. It's Belshazzar. He's the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. And on the opening of this, right, we see that he's throwing a big party, right? And he's just super comfortable where he is in Babylon. Now, Babylon, this is a mighty fortress city. It's impregnable. I mean, nobody can defeat this, right? There's no way in. So they think, right? And then, so like Belshazzar, he's just living it up. His father's Nabonius, and he's off, right? He's away. And so he's pretty much like, left the house with the son, hoping nothing goes wrong, unfortunately. So for me, I like this chapter because, you can get a lot out of this, right? And then, but also you can see how, mocking God, is something you just don't want to do, right? And, and it's, and also from the Christian point of view too, right? It's like being complacent in your life, in your faith. So you'll see this also through this chapter.
Perfect. Well, let's break it wide open. Let's dig into the scripture and sort of attack this as we chip through this. Okay.
Okay.
Y'all want me to read verse 1 of chapter 5?
Sure.
All right. So let's start off. It says, King Belshazzar made a great feast for 1,000 of his lords and drank wine in front of the 1,000. Belshazzar, when he tasted the wine, commanded the vessels of gold and of silver that Nebuchadnezzar, his father, had taken out of the temple in Jerusalem be brought, that the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines might drink from them. Then they brought in the golden vessels that had been taken out of the temple, the house of God in Jerusalem. And the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines drank with them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. Do y'all see a trend here we're following again? We've been talking about the different capitalizations of G in God.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, we're back to the lowercase g, and the lowercase g is plural. It gives us a description. What do y'all think about this right now?
Man, verse 4 really speaks to me in that description there. Sounds awful reminiscent of a statue from earlier on.
Well,
Yes, it does.
That's where I was going.
It's reminiscent of the statue depicted in chapter 2. Is that correct?
It would be correct.
Oh, man. So we see that, I guess the initial verse we see here, it talks about the vessels of gold and silver that his grandfather had taken out. This was taken out previously in defiance of who their God was and a sign of dominance. Yeah. It was taken out. We've talked about the different, not having solo cups and not having, styrofoam plates. This is another instance where they're not using these instances, but using the things that came from God's people, the holy materials. Terry, is there a specific, purpose that they had for these vessels that they had of gold and silver?
Absolutely. So they're being used right in the temple for the service of God. I mean, this is why, way back in the time when Solomon, created the temple and built the temple and all the vessels, he did exactly as God instructed him to do. Right. Mm-hmm. And so everything had a purpose in that temple, from the lampstands to the showbread to the menorah. Everything was there. And, if you dig deep enough to it, you see, its connection to Christ as well. Right. So to pull these things out, even Nebuchadnezzar knew, he had respect for, Daniel's God. Right. I mean, mm-hmm. You see where he had that little change of faith with, the Fantastic Four, as you guys call them, right?
Yeah.
And so, he had that respect, but yet you see, Belshazzar now, he saw what happened, with his grandfather and everything, but, he paid it no mind, right? So you got that lack of reverence there.
Yep.
Um,